So hello friends, today we are going to discuss about articulation points in a graph. So before we jump to the algorithm of articulation points, first let's try to understand what articulation points exactly are. So let's suppose you have a network of 6 servers. Let's call the servers as A, B, C, D, E and F. Right? Let's suppose there is a network, so these nodes are connected in some way to each other. Let's say this edge is just representing that A and B are connected. Similarly, this edge is representing that A and E are connected. Similarly, we can have certain set of nodes. Right. Let's suppose all these 6 nodes are connected in this fashion. So what I want from this network is, if at most one node goes down at any moment of time, then still each and every node should be accessible from every other node in the network. So out of these 6 nodes, let's suppose my node D goes down, right? If this node goes down, this node is down, then that means that this connection and this connection is not present anymore, which was there earlier. So now if you see, node F is not reachable from any other node in the network, right? Since this node is down. So what I am looking for is all the nodes that are my single point of failure, which means if I bring that particular node in my complete network down, then my complete graph that I'll have will become disconnected in some way. In other words, after removing at most one node from my original network, some of my nodes will not be able to reach some other node in the network. So in this case, A, B, C and E are not able to access my F node, which means this is my one component and this is my other component. So these two are two disconnected components of this graph. So because node D went down, right? Similarly, if you see, if I just bring that connection back, and instead of bringing this node D down, let's suppose node F goes down. So this connection is not there anymore and this node is down, right? So still, if you see, this node is down, all the other nodes are still able to access each and every node that is left in the network, right? So node F is not an articulation point because this is not a single point of failure at this node. So even if I bring this particular node down, then my remaining network still is connected. While on the other hand, we discussed about D, right? So if we were bringing down D, then F and all the other remaining nodes were getting disconnected. So my D is an articulation point. Since now we have an understanding of what articulation points are, so the basic approach that might be coming in your mind at the moment is to do just the same thing that we did earlier, was to remove each and every node from the network. So let's suppose initially you did a DFS and find out how many connected components are there. So initially, if you do a DFS on this network to find out how many connected components are there, so you will find that there is only one connected component because each and every node is reachable from each and every node in the network, right? So initially there is one connected component in this graph. Now what we are going to do iteratively is to remove each and every node. So let's say we start from C. We start by removing this node C from my network. So along with this, since this node is not there, what I am going to do is on this remaining graph that I have, I'll just do a normal DFS and try to find out how many number of connected components are remaining. So if the number of connected components are similar to what we had earlier, which is 1, so in this case the connected components are still 1, which means the C is clearly not an articulation point, right? Now let's try to do the same thing for A. So if we remove A, this node goes down and this and this edge is not accessible. So if you look at these nodes and if you remove these edges, you can see that there are two connected components, which is BCF is my one connected component and DE is my other connected component, which means you will have two connected components if you remove edge A, you will have one connected component if you will remove its vertex C, right? So clearly you can see the number of connected components that I have is 2. So this definitely is my single point of failure or the articulation point, because when I'm removing this particular vertex A along with its edges, then this is actually dividing my network into more number of connected components as I had earlier. So earlier I had only one connected component, but now since I have two connected components, this clearly is an articulation point, right? And this was not an articulation point because the number is still the same. Now let's try to do the same thing for the other nodes. So if we remove D, these two edges will get removed. So clearly we can see one E would be my connected component and all the other nodes would be my other connected component, which means there would be two connected components if I remove D. So for D, there would be two connected components, which clearly means since this is more number of connected components than what we had earlier, similarly this is also my articulation. Similarly, if we'll follow the same process for other nodes, we'll see that for E, we'll have only one connected component. So this is not my articulation point. If we'll remove vertex B, then we'll have one connected component is F and all the other nodes in the secondary component, which means we'll have two connected components here, right? So this is also an articulation point. Similarly, if we'll what is left, so we have A, B, C, D and E. Now F is remaining. So now let's try to remove F and C. So if we'll remove F, this is going to get removed. Now all the other nodes are still connected, which means there would only be one single connected component. So for F, we'll have only one connected component. So this is not an articulation. So clearly we can see we have A, D and B as my articulation points, right? So what will be the time complexity of this approach? So let's say my number of vertices is V and my number of edges is E. Since for each and every node I am removing that particular node or marking that node as not accessible, or all the edges for it are not accessible, what would be remaining is all the other nodes, right? So for each node I am iterating once, so it would be O of V. V is for each node I am doing a DFS on the remaining nodes, right? So how many number of remaining nodes would be there? So there would be V minus 1 remaining nodes, right? V minus 1, and it will be going through all the remaining edges. Let's say if I remove a particular vertex from this, then there would be some number of edges which will get removed for C as well, right? And the minimum number of edges that could possibly get removed is 0, because if the initial graph that you're given, in that if you have a separate connected component for that particular vertex itself, then the worst case what we could have is still you're going through all the number of edges that you have in the initial graph. So in the worst case you will have here as E itself. So E is the number of edges that you will go through. So this is the DFS time that it will take in the worst case, which is V plus E minus 1 because we are removing one edge from here. We can ignore this minus 1 because this is still negligible in comparison to V plus E. So instead of this, what we could write here is V plus E. So we are just removing all the vertices one by one. So we will be having V vertex into, for each vertex we are doing V plus E number of computations. So it will be over V into V plus E. So since now we have an understanding of how the naive or the foolproof solution goes for finding the articulation points or single point of failures in a graph. So now let's try to build some intuition of how we can optimize the algorithm that we got earlier. So let's just take an example. So let's suppose we have this 3 nodes in a graph. Let's say these are connected, right? From, let's say our DFS started from node A, then it went to B, then it went to C, right? Now in this case, if node number B wants to be an articulation point, then there shouldn't be any edge from its child to any of its ancestors. So in this case, if you see, B is clearly an articulation point, because if I remove this vertex B along with its edges, then there would be two different connected components, right? Because the graph will become disconnected. But so C is a child of B, because I started my DFS from node A, then I went to B, then I went to C. So let's suppose there was a back edge to one of its ancestors. So for B to be an articulation point, there shouldn't be any other path from this component to the secondary component that we were forming, right? So if there is this back edge, or if there is this edge which is connecting any of the child of node B to its ancestors, then definitely this is not going to make our graph as disconnected, because there is a separate path from its children to its ancestors, right? So this is not necessarily a single point of failure. So this edge that we are calling here, this edge from the child to its ancestor, is referred to as a back edge. So this clearly tells us that if a node wants to be an articulation point, then clearly every child that it will have shouldn't have a back edge to any of its ancestors, right? So ancestors in a graph usually depend on how we're traversing the graph. So we started from A to B, then B to C. That is why C is referred to as a child of B, and A is referred to as an ancestor, because B came from A. So we came to B from node A, right? So since now we know that for finding an articulation point, we should be considering a back edge or a path which is not going through my parent, and it should be a separate path from the child to its ancestors, right? So now in this case, we'll be using two concepts to actually find out whether a child is connected to an ancestor or not. So those two things are actually, one is the discovery time, and the second is the lowest discovery time for a particular vertex. So discovery time is nothing but it is actually the time at which I encountered a particular node for the first time. So let's suppose in this case I started my DFS from node A, right? So initially I'll have a global counter. Let's call it time. So initially I have not visited any node, so initially this will be 0. So when I encounter A, what I'll do is I'll update the time value as 1, and I'll set the time value to the discovery time of A. So this will become 1, which means this is the first node that I've encountered, and I'll update the discovery time of node A as 1. Similarly, from here to here I'll be going. So what is the discovery time of node B? It will be +1. So I'll increment it by 1, and I'll be adding discovery time here. So for node B, this is for discovery time. Similarly for node C, my discovery time will be 3. Right? From here to here I came, but from here there is another part to A. But since I've already encountered this earlier, so I will not be updating this. This will be my discovery time. Right? So since now we know what is the discovery time, make use of the discovery time in finding out the low discovery time. So what is exactly the low discovery time? So let's suppose we have a particular vertex. The lowest discovery time will actually tell us what is the lowest possible discovery time that I can reach from a particular node by not taking a path which is going through its parent. So it is the same thing as finding a back edge. So from here, so let's suppose I start from A. I took this as my discovery time for A, right? So I'll be writing down my load time here. So initially, what would be my lowest discovery time? It would be the discovery time of that node itself, which will be 1. Similarly, from here to here I went, so I'll be doing a DFS on this now. So for node B, the discovery time is 2, right? So, and the load time I'll also initialize it with 2, right? From here, let's suppose I go here, then its discovery time and the load time both will be 3, right? Now for node C, I'll be seeing that this node B I've already visited, right? And this is the parent that I have, so I don't want to consider a path which goes through my parent, so I'll not be considering the discovery time or load time for this and finding the minimum lowest time that I could get for node C. But then I'll see that there is another edge going to A. So what I'll do in this case, since this is already visited, which means that this A is probably an ancestor of C, because this is not the first time A is being encountered, right? So what I'll do, I'll update the lowest time with the discovery time of A. So discovery time of A is 1, which means this is probably an ancestor of node C. So here, instead of 3, it will be 1, because 1 is lower than 3. So I wanted to find the minimum lowest discovery time, right, which I can reach from node C. So from node C I can actually reach 1 from the path which is not going through its parent. So from here I'm not going, I'm going from here to here, right? Now since I have covered both the edges that node C has, the DFS for this particular node will be completed, right? Now it will go back to this, because from here I came. For this I'll check for A, because this is also an adjacent node, but this is actually the parent of B itself, so I'll not be considering this. But for node C, I already completed and found out the lowest time, which is not going through its parent, right? So from here, B, I don't want to consider this path, but I can consider this path, right? So for node B, what would be the lowest possible discovery time? It would be the minimum of whatever lowest discovery time is of the child and itself, so which is 1, right? So from node B, I can reach the lowest discovery time as 1, which would be from here to here, and it is not going to its parent, which was A, right? Similarly, for this particular node B, my DFS will get completed because I have covered both the edges. Now I'll come back to A. I went from here to here, so I can go from here to here now, right? Since now I've already covered the edge from A to B, so there is another adjacent edge which is going from A to C, right? But this node is already visited. So what I'll do is the same thing that I did in case of ancestors. So I'll be checking. So this minimum value, it would be the minimum of 1, 1, which is still 1. So my lowest time for this is also 1, right? So the same case, what would be happening in the case when there wasn't any backend? So here, if I take the same example, but let's just remove the backend and try to see what would be my lowest time. So for this, discovery time would be 1, lowest time would be 1 initially, and I'll come here, it would be 2/2, right? Discovery time also 2, and lowest time also 2. Similarly, it would be 3, 3. From here, this is the parent, so I don't want to consider this part, and there is no other path from here to here. So lowest discovery time will still be 3. Now for this DFS is complete. I'll come back to this node. This is the parent path, so I don't want to consider this, but I can consider this path, right? So for this child, I need to see this. There is 3. So I need to consider the load time of minimum of 2, 3. So load time of B and load time of C for this, it would still be 2, right? So for this particular load time, I can go from here to any other node. So whatever lowest time this C would be having, which is one of the child of C, I can consider this path, right? Similar to what we considered here. So here minimum of 3, 2 is still 2, so it will not get updated. So for then the DFS for this will get completed. Now I'll come back to this node A. I'll see that there isn't any other path to any other node apart from the one that I already covered. So DFS for this is also complete. So these are the final discovery time and the lowest discovery time for each and every node. So we can clearly see the difference in both these graphs with and without a back edge. So now using these two things, how can we find out whether a particular node is an articulation point? So as we discussed earlier, that for a node to be an articulation point, there shouldn't be any back edge, right? Which is the same case as the second example that we took without any back edge. So in this case, we can clearly see that our low time of our child that we have for B, which is 3, right? This is the low time of its child. So here we can clearly see that the low time of its child is clearly greater than its discovery time, which means there is no backage from you. So if there would have been a backage, the load time for this particular node would have clearly been less than the discovery time of my current node, right? Because if I can reach to its ancestors, then its ancestor, one of the ancestors would probably have a lower discovery time because they might have been discovered earlier. So in this case, we can clearly see that the load time of this particular child for B is less than the discovery time of that vertex P, and in this case it's quite the opposite. So we can actually use these low time and discovery time in finding out the vertex. So if it wants to be an articulation point, then low of child, so low discovery time of the child of that vertex that I want to find at an articulation point should be greater than or equal to discovery time, so DISC of vertex. So here, as we clearly see in this case, if I want to check if this is a if this node vertex B is an articulation point, so low of child, here low of child is 3, it should be greater than or equal to discovery time of vertex, which is 2. This is correct, which means there is no path or no backage from this particular child, which clearly means that if I just remove this, there won't be any other path, so this graph will get disconnected. And if we see in this case, if we do the same thing for low of child, which is 1, and discovery time of this is 2, which is not being satisfied, which clearly means that in this particular graph B is not an articulation point, because even if I remove this section, then there is a path from here, so these remaining nodes are still being connected, right? So the algorithm that we have discussed just now will clearly work for all the nodes or all the vertices that has at least one ancestor. But what about the node like A from which we are starting our DFS? It won't work, right? Because this is the first node that we are starting our DFS from, and it doesn't have any ancestors, because this is the minimum possible value that you could possibly get for the discovery time that it has, right? So there is no, so you can't actually form a backend because this is the first node, which we can also call it as a root node, right? So let's try to discuss how we can formulate an algorithm for doing it for the root node. Apart from the root node, the same thing can be done, but for the root node, the algorithm is slightly different. Let's discuss how we can find a backage for a root node or the node from which we are actually starting a DFS from. So let's suppose take the same example where we had A, we had B, we had C, right? Let's suppose this A has multiple children. This graph is something like this, where this is a completely separate component and this is a separate component. So in this case, you can see that there is no edge from component 1, which is this C1, C2. This is component 1 and this is component 2. You can clearly see that there is no edge from B or C to D or E, right? So if I disconnect this, or if I remove this vertex A, then clearly this will get disconnected because there is clearly no edge from component 1 to component 2, right? Now let's suppose we add a particular edge here. In this case, we can clearly see that there is a path from component 1 to component 2. So even if we remove this A, this clearly won't be an articulation point because there is a separate path from component 1 to component 2, right? Doesn't matter on what order these vertices are there. It's just that there should be a path or an edge from component 1 to component 2. So now when we'll be doing a DFS, so let's take both the example and see how DFS will work in both these cases. Let's try to take the first example where there was no edge from component 1 to component 2. So if we'll start a DFS from node A, as we said, this is the root node and this is the root node for which we are trying to find the solution for articulation point. So for this node, we'll be starting a DFS from here. So if we'll do a DFS on this node, what we'll do in the first iteration, it will, so here let's suppose I go to the node B, then it will actually be marking all these nodes. So it will be finishing all the edges that are connected to B and C, right? Then the DFS will come back to this node. So once it comes here, I know that since these nodes are already visited, I have at least one child which was not yet visited, right? So this is my one component. So when I come back to A from this, after visiting all the nodes in component 1, I can see that there are still some edges or vertices which are not yet visited, right? So in this case, I can simply say that there is one more component which has some vertices which are not visited, right? So when I'll go from here, I'll be visiting all the nodes in this component, I'll be coming back to A, then I'll be visiting all the nodes in secondary component. So I can similarly do and mark all these vertices since there is. So now clearly I know that there are two independent components. So when I'm doing a DFS, whenever I'm starting a DFS on any of the child of the root node, then I would be incrementing my counter by 1. So for this component I'll have 1, and when I'll come back and I'll go to this another component, I'll be adding 1 to it again because I have already visited B and C, and now D and E was not visited earlier. Now let's try to see what will happen if we add an edge from here to here. So in the same case, if we'll add an edge from here to here, what will happen is when we'll start our DFS from here, doesn't matter if we go to D or B. If let's suppose we go to B, then what will happen is it will take these edges, and when it will come to C, when it will mark it as visited, it will also go to E, right? So it will mark these edges as well when it will complete its DFS, right? And when it will complete its propagation from all the nodes, it will come back to A, right? Now I can see that there is no other edge which is yet to be visited, which means there is only one child component which is visited. So in this case, we can clearly see that both these C1 and C2 components are equal in this case because there is a back edge. So in this case, the component is this complete thing. So for this root node, I just need to see that if the number of child is greater than 1, which means if the number of components that I have is greater than 1, then it's clearly an articulation point, as we saw that when there were two components, or even if we add more components here, let's suppose there was this node which was also not having any edge with any of these components, then clearly this is an articulation point because it will disconnect these three components, right? In this case, similarly, if there are more than one child nodes which are not interconnected with any of the edges, then clearly it's an articulation point. So we can clearly use this approach to check whether a root is an articulation point or not. And for all the nodes apart from the root node, we can just use the same thing by finding the discovery time and the load time and just comparing them by the condition that I discussed earlier, by using the concept of back edges to see whether it is an articulation point or not.